Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming this morning in Manila. We are very excited to be there today. Jamel, can you check the sound is okay or not? Okay. So, thank you for this second edition of EMP Day in Manila. So, EMP means Azure and AI, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. So we will speak about these topics today. First, we would like to thank our sponsor, and we are very lucky to have Microsoft providing us these beautiful rooms for this event. We are in the third part of the 3 events in Asia. So we started a few days ago in Seoul. We did an event in Kuala Lumpur the day before yesterday. And today, this is the third one in Manila. So thank you for the speakers who are doing some, if not all, the event. Today we have a special guest, Angie. If you can just give us some insight about why it is important for you to have such type of event in Manila, because you are from Filipino.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, although okay, so AMP is very special to me. It was started back in 2018, if I could remember. I was in AOS Singapore at that time. And now I realized that I really wanted to bring this as well in the Philippines because it's really a good community, and you have a different different speakers from around the world that come together, share their insights, and also you can also talk to them, ask them anything that you want, especially if you have any issues with the product that you're working on, especially in Azure, AI, Microsoft Power Platform, and Microsoft 365. So if you can see them, please do reach out and ask anything from them. They will definitely share it. So hope you will enjoy the event, and also in the online, hope everyone is safe as well. So please enjoy the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming from Singapore for this event, especially for this event. We have also Paul coming from the US, Jamel coming from Brussels, and many other people. We are not very lucky because it's typhoon in Philippines today. Yesterday it was really a big rain, and today seems to be a little bit better, but maybe not so many people will be able to show up. Anyway, anyway, everything will be recorded, so you can find the recording on YouTube channel for AMP. About this event, we have, as usual, we have 2 ways to follow the agenda. So a 1-page agenda on the left, and you have the exact URL. It can be found on ampcommunity.online site, very easily. The idea is to have all the sessions in 1 page. And on the right, you have what we call mobile app, which is more sized for a mobile phone view. Just as I said, we have done many events this year, and I want to show some memories. First one was in Brazzaville in Congo Republic, so it was in June. Second one was in India this summer in Salem University, with a lot of people, and with our local guest who was Feroz, organized by Feroz. And this one is from Korea. It was last year event because when I did the slide, I didn't the latest feature, but very, very cool and very interesting place. And that's it for the introduction. So now, in a few minutes, we will start two sessions. One on this room about Microsoft Copilot, and one on the other room about Power Platform. So thank you very much.
What do you want? Je vais vérifier parce que en fait, quand je me demande
Walang walang night.
I actually had like PS2 actually yes, well not this year, but
Okay, so Paul was supposed to start the other site, but he's not here due to the typhoon, so only one session to start. should get online. I think we have, yeah, okay. So is it okay for online? Sorry, the transmission at some point. So the LLM is trained to some point in time, and then it starts to learn. It's important to understand that. So because at some point when we ask who is the Queen of England, he was still saying it's Elizabeth II, even after the death of the Queen, because he was not aware of the latitude. So Microsoft provided some new connection to the internet in order for the LLM to be able to get the latest information. And then if you ask this question today, with the latest version, obviously you will know that the King of England is no longer Elizabeth II, but the new king. That's the way to know about the LLMs. What makes Copilot for Microsoft 365 different? It's not only LLM, but it's its integration with the other parts of the ecosystem. So on this little animation, it shows the difference and the capabilities of the tools. So let me explain. First, in the center, we have what we call the orchestrator. And so Microsoft 365 is mostly an orchestrator. It's interacting with Microsoft 365 apps. So every chat will be available in the interface of Google app you already use, like Teams, like Outlook. From there, the end user is trying to get is providing his input and asking some prompt, giving some prompt. Let's go. The prompt, in fact, is coming from the apps to the Microsoft Graph. Why the Microsoft Graph? Because, make a pause. Why the Microsoft Graph is a way for the orchestrator to get some more detailed information. For example, in the user prompt, if the user is asking for a list of meetings with a specific customers, the Microsoft Graph is able to give some detailed information about who is the customer, who is the next meeting for this customer, and things like that. So the Microsoft Graph is a way to understand and to get detailed information about the exact environment of each user. So, hello. If I get some asked for some details about my meetings, it will not give the same answer as my colleagues' meetings. So it's dedicated to the right and everything I can see on my tenant. So the prompt is a little bit modified, and what a pre-process, that's what they call the grounding process. And at some point, very quickly, it will be sent to the LLM. So the graph is able to find some emails, some files, some calendars info, contact info, which is very important to give some authoritative information about my own environment. So this modified prompt is sent to the LLM, and then once again, the LLM is managing text, so he's doing his stuff and is sending back an answer response, which is once again post-processed, because there can be some reference to once again my email, my file, and things like that. So it should be replaced in the answer and send it back to the Copilot via the orchestrator to the app where the original answer was asked. So this is the way it works. So it's a little bit more complicated than a single LLM, but it provides a deep integration with the Microsoft 365 environment, which is quite nice. So, okay. If you think about what is Copilot or what is ChatGPT, it's by default a very individual tool. I am on my own environment and I ask questions, I get answers, but only for me and for my own personal view of the information. This can be very interesting because my colleagues don't see the question I ask, but at some point it can be also a limitation because I want probably to share the answer with some colleagues and work on the answers. So Microsoft is providing a very cool, so they have launched Copilot Microsoft 365 something like 1.5 years ago, and a few weeks or a few days ago, they have informed the community that they will provide a wave 2, so a second wave of capabilities around Copilot Microsoft 365. And in this wave 2, they provide a cool new feature which is called Copilot Pages. What is Copilot Pages is a new way to share the answer of a question you ask to the lab and to share it with your team or part of your team. And this way you will be able to create collaboration around the result of provided by the LLM. Let me show you a quick demo. So you start in Copilot in Teams, for example, and you ask for information about an airport, and you want to create some documents. So Copilot will provide, we try to find some information. The important point is the button Edit Pages, which allows to put the answer and to in a page you can share with many people here, 4 people here in this example. And you can switch this example from Copilot, external Copilot, gathering information from the web, and Copilot for work, which is the way to interact with your internal Microsoft 365 data. So this is the magic button, is the Edit Pages, and you were able to create what we call it a loop component, which is the pages that can be worked with all the people you want to share it.
Just for the audio, you cannot hear.
À un moment, c'était déconnecté, je suis revenu.
Yes, it's okay. We lost the sound at some point, but it's back for online, sorry. So this was Copilot Pages, which is, as I said, a very interesting addition, which allows collaboration around the result provided by Copilot. Another important addition provided by Wave 2 is that if you think about what is Copilot again, you have to ask questions, you get answers from your phone, but it's very interactional, so you need to interact with the prompt with what they call Copilot agents. Microsoft is trying to provide some new way to create a prompt or to execute it automatically or by responding to specific triggers, like, for example, when I receive a specific type, I will start a prompt and I will manage the answer and take some action, for example. So this is a very interesting new way to interact with AI because you no longer need, with this type of interaction, you no longer need to do a prompt and then to start a discussion. You can just create an automatic way to manage that. And we should definitely understand what are provided by license. So in Copilot, we have many licenses, but the most important are, if we forget the personal licenses, in fact, we have only two interesting and useful versions of Copilot. The first version on the left column here is for companies that don't want to pay a lot, because the first version is free. Free means included with already existing Microsoft 365 license. So if you have Business Standard, Business Premier, for example, or E365, you get access to this Copilot just by connecting and going to the Copilot site and using your work ID, so your Entra ID. And using that, you already get access to the capabilities of Copilot, so chat, and you can ask all the questions you want and things like that. And the important thing is in this case, you get commercial data protection, which means that all the data you provide, the question you ask, the answer you get, are all protected and not used to train new version of the LLM. And the whole license, which is around $30 US, is providing much more because it's providing mostly integration with existing tools like Copilot, like Outlook, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Teams. And also, what we have seen previously in the animation, the integration with the graph, which means you don't have to put your document outside of the tenant. You can use all your environment and ask questions about specific document, for example, a Word document, which is in your tenant. So this was the first part. Second part is about governance. Governance, as I said, is very important because when you provide a tool to your company, you should obviously think about who can use it, in which condition, and you should define some rules. So, first, we should definitely understand where the information from the Copilot are gathered. And in this, this is the same schema, a little bit more complicated, but in a different way. It's exactly the same schema, showing the orchestrator, showing the LLM, interaction with apps, and the Microsoft Graph. So by default, your Copilot will gather all information from your tenant context, like file, meeting, everything. But you have also a capability that allows to go to Bing, so that to the internet, to get, as I said, the latest information. But for some company which are managing very secret information, I would say, very confidential information, even a question about a specific topic, about a specific product can be dangerous. So you can close this by deactivating the internet connector by default. You can also think to use some more plugins. Plugins can provide some more information about HR system and ERP system in your company. So it can be very useful if you want to answer, for example, what are the latest information about all the orders for specific customers. Probably the information is not in the graph, it's not in the document, but it's an operational system used to manage the order. So you can connect that, but you have to define the specific plugin. You can also connect the Microsoft 365 to Dataverse and to all Power Platform services if you have interesting information together in this. In fact, a very interesting thing about Copilot Microsoft 365 is that it's taking all the information to the whole tenant. And if you are a big company, the whole tenant can be very huge. Many terabytes of data usually for a big company. So that's quite interesting. But sometimes it can be not so good because you will get, for example, 10 versions of an old document, and you know that like a process, internal process, which has changed a lot during days and days, and years and years. And at some point, it can be very useful to target only the latest version of this type of procedure, for example. So they are providing what they call personalized copilots, and we will very soon be able to create custom copilots based on a specific set of documents, but not all documents of your tenant. How it can work. It's a very short demo here. So you start from SharePoint library here, and you select a few documents. You are sure they are these documents. You are sure they are the good ones. Really, they are the good ones. They provide the latest verified information. So no need to go elsewhere for this specific process, for example. And that's it. You create a new copilot using only these documents, and you can share it in, for example, Teams conversation. I'm going to do that. Yes. So here in the Teams conversation, we share. It's very quick. Here you can see we share the copilot, and you can ask all questions about, for example, a specific delivery enrollment site to this copilot, which we are very sure that it will use only the latest information curated by the team about this topic. So that's a way to focus on a very specific type of documents. And as you have seen in the interface, it's very easy. It's just a selection of documents in SharePoint. There are many ways to extend Copilot. So by default, we have the Copilot based on Microsoft 365 apps using the graph. And if you want, you don't remove the by default option connecting to the internet, but you can also connect to many other data sources like ERP, like HR, things like that. And you can also create some plugins to embed your Copilot in other places than the default Microsoft 365 apps. So we can do that with those extensibility tools provided by Microsoft. At the end, the governance should be defined in order to protect your data. Because with Copilot Microsoft 365, we see this on this schema that using the graph and the semantic index, they will go to all your accessible content. So by default, you will use all the SharePoint sites you have access to. all the OneDrive, all the group mailbox, user mailbox, and things like that. And so it's very important to be sure that each user has access to his set of SharePoint, for example, because if you, as the end user, you have access to the actual SharePoint site with confidential information, maybe you don't know it and you will never go there. But Copilot will go there, and if you have some question, you can get some results you are not supposed to see. So that's very important to make an audit and to be sure that all the rights are correct. So in order not to leak some confidential information. Usage and adoption is the next step. First, we should think about what type of activity or skills the LLMs usually provide. It can be ChatGPT or Copilot, that's exactly the same because it's the GPT LLMs. You can use it to generate any content, like especially text. They are very good doing that. You can also use the LLM to complete any already started text. You can use the LLMs to transform. The best example of this is translation. So you can transform a text from Spanish to English, for example, or the reverse. They are very good doing that. You can use your LLMs to summarize. A good example is you receive a big juridical complex document, more than 50 pages. You can ask the Copilot to understand and summarize all the important information for you. You can ask the Copilot some very specific information about any topic, especially a document or a several document or a project in your environment. You can create a conversation, asking answer, and from the answer you ask more questions. And very important thing is also they are very good. LLMs in general are very good doing classification. So you can ask what are the most important customers for me based on several criteria. That's the type of questions they can help, for example, to decide what is the most important meeting for you in the next few days. So that's basically the 7 skills you can think LLMs are very good and can help all people in a company doing this type of task. Microsoft is providing a very cool top 10 of the first try or the most important thing you can do with Copilot Microsoft 365 based on what they have seen on the free version and already released the version in the so we can see that the first one is very useful and very interesting. It's allowed to automatically recap a meeting. So you just have to register your meeting in Teams, and Copilot will help you to track the key topics and make a summary of the meeting and things like that. You can also summarize email or draft new email very easily. You can do that the same with documents, summarize document or create a new document. You can have some more detailed information about the project or a specific topic in the company. Translation, we already spoken about translation. You can revise the content, so get more information about how it can be rewritten. This card is very important. You can use definitely Copilot as a way to find information, and you vaguely remember someone mentioning something, but you don't know exactly where. Was it in a Teams? Was it in an email? Was it on intranet site somewhere, Copilot will be very good to find the correct information as soon as we can provide you some very specific details about what you are looking for. Writing again. It can also be very useful and very helpful when you need some more ideas. So it can boost your creativity, and you can ask, for example, Copilot to provide 10 new name for a new product, and you will choose the best one for you. So that's a really convenient way to help creating some new stuff. If we go deeper, type of usage, Microsoft is providing a very detailed, what they call scenario library, and you will get some more details about how can I use a Copilot if I am in marketing, if I am in IT. So very specific Copilot information based on your task and on your division where you are in the company. And obviously, you will not use the Copilot capabilities the same way if you are in marketing or if you are in IT, but in both places, you can have a very interesting idea going this to this. And it's very important when you deploy Microsoft Social Copilot in any company to understand if you are some adoption to understand how people will use it. So this site is very interesting in this. If we think about end user, the first thing to learn to teach end user is that how to make a good prompt, because like we did some 10 or 20 years ago with Google, everybody is not always capable to do a great search on Google. It's exactly with the prompt. Not everybody everybody are not aware of how I can make a good prompt. It's not easy. So we have to learn to teach our users how to make the good prompt. So these are the 4 steps. Start the end in mind, so you should always define what you want. And I have a more detailed version of the slide here. The first thing is to give the goal. So here, for example, I want a list of bullet points for what. The context here is an upcoming meetings with some details about the client, focusing on some specific topics. Then you have to define expectation. What I want here an answer with a tone, specific tone, friendly but authoritative. And a very important thing is that I ask Copilot to focus only on chats and emails. Probably no need to go to documents for this example. And over the last 2 weeks, which is very important, be able to specify the time period, because if I don't do that, Copilot will probably use some very old information, or it can use very old information which are not very useful for the next day. There are many ways to make prompts. I have summarized it on this slide, and all the details can be found it. I don't have time to detail everything, but I just want to speak about one, which is meta-prompting. What is meta-prompting is when you know that you think that Copilot could help you for a specific task, but you don't know how to ask him. You can just ask him, can you provide me a prompt to do that? So that's, you ask Copilot to create a prompt for you. That's a very powerful way to use Copilot. But there are many other options to do prompt. For example, if you ask him to do something, you can give some examples or some contrary of what you don't want, things like that. You should be aware also, and your end user should be aware that's not magic, just IT. And so there are some limitations at some point, especially in the size of the prompt, which can be seen as very big, 2,000 characters, which seems a huge quantity, but if you provide some details, some example in your prompt, it can be a limitation. So we should not do that. With Copilot, the limitation is bigger, and you have also an option which is called the Notepad, which can be used to provide even bigger prompt. And at some point in time, Microsoft is saying that, for example, they will not be able to handle a big Word document, and they are limited at this time to 80,000 words, which is huge, but can be a limitation if you think about, for example, very big contract of more than 100 pages and things like that. So in case you reach this type of limits, you can think about splitting your document in several parts. And you should be aware there is some limits like that. Copilot Lab is a very useful site provided by Microsoft to give you some example of very specific prompt, very common and usual prompt you can use in Microsoft 365 environment, especially if you want to use in a specific tools. So you have a way to select the prompt for PowerPoint, for example, and to do some type of task. But I always recommend my customers to first try to improve your prompting using a very visual tools. And in Designer, you can find to create some image creator. So to generate a new image using a prompt. So this is not using generative text LLM, but it's using DALL-E, which is a dedicated LLM for generating images. And why is it interesting? This is because as it is very visual, you can get very quickly and very visually the difference between two prompts, because if you change words, sometimes only one word in your prompt, the image generated will be very different. But and this is very powerful way to improve your prompting capabilities with a very visual tools. And that's it. The conclusion: this approach need to is your approach to Microsoft 365 Copilot, and the deployment of this type of tool should be structured. And I propose this structured approach as a key to success for my customers. Thank you. I think that's it. So, and we are just in time, so if you have some question, I can answer the question.
Next.
Yes, next session on this time will be about developing a custom Copilot by Walter. And on the other side, we will have Vincent doing anti-spoofing using SPF, AIM, and DMARC for Microsoft 365.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So earlier you shown the lighting here on.
Yeah.
So in our company, right, I'm already at PC license, I can already use
Yeah.
Copilot.
So you can go to copilot.microsoft.com and you connect with your ID or guide ID and it should work.
Oh,
And you get automatically doing that, you get commercial protection, which means that you can provide even some secret information, and then they will stay in your bubble. In fact, there is a sort of security bubble, and everything will stay there.
very bawat member
I'm supposed to be after you, right? That's correct. That's what I remember. That also tell you I'm not that young. Right? Ever since 2008, I got it until now, I was started as a developer security MVPs. And until I think 2015-16, Microsoft revamped the program and reorganized the competency. I moved myself to the Azure. What we talk about today is mostly on the Microsoft Azure, and we share with you on the AI services from the Azure. And I still look the same as the heritage left. Everyone has that, right? So before I talk about the content of this, I just want to give you guys some context. This slide always have the music, I don't know why. Right, I will share with you a little bit about what I'm going to talk about today. Have you guys know about this thing called the ChatGPT?
No.
I think it's like
Yeah.
oh,
Just
the small thing.
yeah. Well,
Okay. Do you guys know about this thing called the ChatGPT? It took over the world by storm. I don't hyphen level 5 over by storm, and it changed the world. It changed the way how we work, right? So you will mostly use the ChatGPT on the personal perspective, and then you also wear a hat of the developers or power users. And today we're going to talk about how can we use that in the organizations. So what I would do is to give you some demos. So first thing is do you guys use Bing? No, right? Mostly go to Google, right? Let me share something with you. So the Microsoft versions that giving to consumers to use some of this thing called the ChatGPT is actually a Bing Copilot, something like this, which you can ask the questions, right? Like for example, so I can say recommend top 3 places to visit in Manila. Me, I'm wearing a hat of a normal consumer, normal users, right? So that's why I should go to some of these places which I have no idea where exactly is that. Do you guys know some of these places?
Yeah.
Okay, and obviously the Bing version of that is correct, right? The other part I'll share with you here is you can do a lot of things with the coding or whatever, but I want to share with you, if you are doing Bing, they do actually have some reward back to the consumer, like people like us. Give you examples, right? I do have like 4,000 over points. If I click on it, I can redeem some vouchers. This is actually given back to the community who helped Microsoft to do a lot of data taking in and this and that. As you can see from here, you can actually redeem some of these vouchers. I'm not sure any of you are playing the Roblox or your kids are playing the Roblox. You can get a digital card. By using search engine, you actually get the result you want at the same time. You actually can redeem some of these things. Like for example, back in Malaysia, we do have this thing called the Lotus, it's like supermarket. I can redeem a vouchers for what I have. Right. I don't know what you see, but maybe you get something, right? But this is what you have as a personal. Another part I want to share with you here is, if you're coming from an angle of a power users, something like what I have here, I can ask him to generate, I can ask the Copilot, which you can see from here, to generate me a PowerPoint slide. I'm not sure you've seen this demo before. So I say that I want to create a PowerPoint slide about Entra ID, right? What it does is it will take a couple of minutes. The Copilots, these are power users, will generate a whole PowerPoint for me. Of course, you can't take it just like that. You still have to edit the content. But what you're trying to do here is putting the content for you, at least 80% is ready for you to consume. Of course, you can tell your boss you need 2 weeks, but you get it done in 10 minutes. right? So this is actually another way of how Copilot helping our own life, right? So just to come back with the context, as you can see, the thing is everything is generated. You can try this for Copilot for PowerPoint, which I did. Another one will be the Excel, all sort of things. So the Microsoft Office suite is just amazing. You have some of these things, right? Every time you type the same prompt, create a presentation about the Entra ID, you will get a different template. It's not the same template because it's random. So what happened, I'm trying to tell you and explain to you here is I give you two demos. I, as a personal user, I want to visit, I ask ChatGPT's prompt, what am I doing? Where can I go in Manila? Second, me as a power user in the office, I can use some of the Copilot. What if today you can build a Copilot that using your company data? I give you one of the best examples. If you have a company handbook that's this thick, right? You can ask, I mean, it's not a demo, but I can give you a scenario. Ask particular handbook from the chat perspective, how to apply a leave, an annual leave, an MC or anything. From the handbook itself, it will tell you, oh, go to the system A, go to system B, get the permission from A, get the permission from B. We can actually create our own Copilot based on our own content, which is the key thing I'm going to present to you today. So now you've seen the demos, and that's what I'm going to end with the PowerPoint here. Let me jump back to my PowerPoint. By the way, this slide I did myself, it's not coming from the Copilot. I spent like a few times to record the content. So before we talk about how to build our own content or own Copilot with our own content, let's go through some fundamentals and then I'll come back to a demo. Number one, you heard this thing called LLM before. It stands for Large Language Model, which means be able to understand English or other languages. Of course, I know Philippines here got a lot of dialect, which I have no idea. But what happened here is LLM is basically means that you're able to understand the language. That also tells you you cannot build a Copilot to analyze data. It's not meant for analyzing numbers. It's meant for English. So, or any type of languages. So in this case, I just want to make people understand you cannot make the Copilot do everything you want in the world because you need to select a specific model. In this case, because the ChatGPT things are very hippie nowadays, it's all about the LLM, right? So what happened here is LLM is actually a model because as you know, AI, you're going to have a model. Another example to give to you is if you want to analyze sales data, assuming you come from a company who run a supermarket or retail, you want to run a data on sales, you don't use LLM. You actually use regression model. Regression model is a model you use to analyze data for sales perspective. So you need to pick the right model. Anyway, today we talk about this, right? So this is the one that is able to understand the thing, text generation, translations in certain extent. As an example, last week when I was in Seoul, what happened here is I skipped my pronunciation in English not so good. What I did is I actually take all my content that you have here. Down there, I actually go to the Bing Copilot, I translate the thing into the Korean words. According to the people on the ground, they say it's pretty much close to what I'm trying to explain. But you have translation, summarization, Q&A, and other things. The next thing I want to tell you is about this thing called the groundness. Groundness is basically how you ask the questions and the context of it. I give you one example. The word park. You go into a park. Like Sunday, you bring your families, you go to the park. Park at the same time got other meanings, like parking. It's two different things, right? And when you ask certain questions, I give you examples. When you ask questions like, for example, you go to the ChatGPT or you go to the Bing Copilot, you ask how to apply leave. It's a very wide context, right? From the worldwide perspective, how to apply leave. They have a lot of results given to you without a specific context. So from there, if you want to build a Copilot for our own content or our own company or your customer company, it has to have the concept of the groundness. It must be confined within the content that they're looking for. If I want to apply leave, I only care about my own company system. I don't care about whatever HR system they sell out there. So that is the reason why we want to care about this. So ungrounded prompt and responses is basically just from the World Wide Web. Anything, right? You ask the thing. Sometimes we still need that. It's because let's say the handbook has a specific keyword that you don't understand what exactly is that. You can just ask what exactly this keyword means. It will tell you blah 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 blah, right? So, but from our demos, I'm going to show you that we want to link it to the ground. The only difference from these two diagrams is we want it to link it to our own data source, which is quite important. The data source itself is the one that defines the content that we want to ask, right? So that's why we want to have the grounded data to generate a contextual and relevant to the questions we're going to ask or the prompt. So now I'm going to show you how you need to first set up the whole thing. I'll show step by step. Some of it will take more than 10 minutes, which I cannot wait. I will show you a screenshot. So the first thing you have to do is have Microsoft Azure. Right, you need to go to a place called Azure AI Services. So what I did, I'll show you I'm going to show you how to get it done, but I created something upfront. So I created one item here, and I create a new one. A couple of cache I just want to share with you if you're going back today and just try to play around. It's actually about the region. The closest we have from our geographical from Southeast Asia, either from Malaysia, from Singapore, or even from the Philippines, the closest we have is actually Japan East. A lot of time when we do the Microsoft Azure in the Philippines, we always point to Singapore, right? Most of us, we did that. I mean, my personal project, sometimes I also point it to the Hong Kong. They call the Northeast. But what happened here is the closest the services you have is from Japan East, right? So this is what you have. And even I went to Seoul, they also quite surprised that they don't have that one as well, right? But as I said, it must be available in the Japan East. Other than that, the next one is the price tier. Currently, I have a standard SKU for the standard 0. Once you've created this one, and you're just there, right? You're just there. And I cannot create this one because I already created one. The next one that you have to do is to create what we call AI search. This too is the fundamental services you must create first. So if I go to the AI search, I also pre-created one. And as the same, you're going to select the Japan East. So what happened here is the standard tier will give you some of these specifications. The specifications is actually what you needed when you do a prompt in the future for the search, right? When you do a prompt, what happened here is the LLM able to translate what you're trying to say, right? And then what happened here is it will go through what we call the search services. And from there, it will look for the content that we pump in later on. So that's a fundamental of the concepts, right? So once these two things has been set up, and then you are ready to go, which I already done. So I'll jump back to my slide. Let's talk a little bit down into a technical. You always heard people talk about building ChatGPT apps, especially from CFO, CEO. I want to have my own ChatGPT apps. The actual term of it is called RAG, R-A-G, right? It's called the Retrieval Augmented Generation Apps, right? That's the right term we use. We do not want to use without give a ChatGPT apps, right? So from there, we actually try to tell people that this is the whole architecture and the flow of it, which is you actually have the LLM to actually enforce on the whole flow, and then you put your own data, and then it will give you the prompt response accordingly, right? So the thing you have to learn is called RAG, R-A-G. Let's talk about grounding. Remember, we talk about grounding means you need to put your own data inside. There usually 3 places where you can drop your data. Number 1, which my demo will cover, is the blob storage. Do you guys know what's a blob storage? It basically just the Azure storage, or similar to AWS S3. Right, similar. But basically, that's where you drop all the files, mostly unstructured. and then you have a data lake, or you want to dump it to the Microsoft One lake, which is if you guys working on the Fabric, this is something familiar to you. But today demo, I'm gonna give you something very simple, right? The next one is talk about vector search. It's very, very key. Vector search is when you put in a specific keywords, you're able to relate what exactly. In my demo, I'll show you one thing. New York. If you type the full word New York, people know it's New York in the US, right? But if I put in NY, it will also know it's a New York. But how does the system know? The system is all about the binaries, right? Due to the vector search technologies, and in certain way is related to the semantic, it actually able to understand NY similar to New York, right? So this is the one that AI search already give you the services, and they will do the part for you, right? I just want to give you another example. Take a look at this, right? The children play joyfully in the park. The kids happily ran around the playground. These two things is very, very similar in terms of the sentence and the meaning, right? Just look at the one with the green colors. Children and kids, about the same, right? And then if you take a look at the yellow color, joyfully and happily is also about the same, right? And lastly, the park and the playground is also about the same. It's only with the vector search technologies you're able to get something like this. Do you want to write from scratch your own algorithm? I don't think so. Just use the Microsoft Azure services. It will help you to relate, right? So because when you do prompt, you can type anything you want. It's not like a system. You confine the buttons or you confine the so-called the flow, how you key in. You can't. Prompt is free flow. So you need to have vector search in order to set the correct context of the sentence that you're going to ask. So the vector search are very key in this case. So my next demo will cover three things, which is a deployment of an AI model, a data and index. But let me give you an example. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to build a RG apps, right? The reg apps for two things. One, I'm doing an e-commerce. I'm a travel agency. When people come to my website and ask me, they want to stay in New York, right? But if you ask the World Wide Web, like what I showed just now, right? Where to visit in Manila, it give me all sorts of things. But what if I'm a travel agency? I want to sell my hotel in New York. I will tell them it's recommended you stay in the hotel A, hotel B, hotel C. For business perspective, that's what I'm trying to do. Number two, I have a company data, which I can query the data and ask a prompt to tell me specific content related to my company data. These are the two demos I'm trying to explain to you. But before we reach that, the first thing you have to do is deploy an AI model. AI model, what people misunderstand here is Microsoft Azure is not only Microsoft AI model. They do have others open source models, such as the one from Meta or Facebook, which have the Llama, right? Which is quite good. Microsoft Define, and then you have the OpenAI, which is the ChatGPT. Next, I'll put the data for you. Remember, I'm a tourist agency. I'll give you the PDF and also give you the JSON. Index is when you try to run the indexing on the content that will come in the data. So without further ado, let me bring you to the site. So once you created this, you can go to what we call the AI Studio, ai.azure.com. This is where you actually can create your projects in this case. So what we did here is I pre-created a project here. Remember three things I talked to you about: a deployment, a data, and the index. Three things. So first, we want to create a deployment of the AI model, which I already pre-created, but I will show you the flow, because to create this takes about maybe 10 minutes for each step, which I don't have the time, right? In my demo, I'm using the ChatGPT 3.5 with the turbo of the 60K. The reason why I use this one is because it's the cheapest one I can use for do a demo. If I go for GPT 4.0, it's more expensive. So in this case, I use a cheaper one. And then I have another model called the text embedding ADA 2. So I got two AI models being deployed. But what I want to show you here is, if I want to deploy a model, I can choose many type of model Microsoft is offering to you. For example, if I want to use the Llama, which is offered by Meta, it's also available here, right? It's not only confined to the Microsoft OpenAI. In fact, you all know ChatGPT is from this company called OpenAI. Microsoft do have their own LLM. It's called the P3 or Phi3. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure the pronunciation, but they do have their own version of the LLM model, right? In fact, another one I try to explain to you here is from OpenAI offering. You do have this thing called the Whisper. Whisper is actually a speech recognition model. When you talk or you pump in the voice, it will be able to translate for you into English text. So there are many models you can play around, but today our demonstrations will be focused on using the text and the ChatGPT 16, right? So this is how to deploy the model. Repress. The next thing is to swipe your credit card. You get your thing ready. Data. So I got a lot of things been pre-put in. One of that is actually the traveling. I told you I want to sell my hotel services just by the Expedia, and I have my content in the Northwind. The Northwind itself is actually a JSON, which is available in any type of systems, right? And then in the travel, it's actually a PDF. That's the source of the content. So what you can do here is just go to a new data. Under here, you can say that upload the files. That's all. Just upload the files. And then from there, you can actually browse the file or drag the file inside here. I will give you some examples, but I won't complete the process. So let's say I drag a Las Vegas brochure. Oops, sorry. But okay. Once the thing is uploaded, you press next. Just give a name to it, and then it will create the data source for you. Very, very straightforward. Same happens to the JSON. But once you upload the thing, your PDF or your JSON is not searchable. You have to do what we call an index, just like a SQL Server reindexing. That's why you come to here, and you create a new index. And in the data source, you choose the data in AI Studio. And then you select what you want, like for example, the Northwind or the traveling. You press next. It will ask you which services. Remember the first demo, I created two things, Azure AI services and the search services. This is where you key in and select. Once you are done, you are good to go, right? The process behind the scene will do all the reindexing for you, right? If I press next, and it will tell you what's the name you want to put, blah, blah, blah. If you confirm, then it will take another 10 minutes just to get it done. Depends on the content that you upload. In this case, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. But what I did before here is, I do have a sample that I want to share with you. Can you see from there? Whatever data that you uploaded, it divided into 3 processes. Number 1 or 3 steps. It will do a cracking and chunking, means it will break the whole PDF into individual words for you to understand, because we are doing the vector search. So that's the first step. Number 2, once the thing has been broken down into individual words, is where the Azure search index coming in, the one that we created upfront. And then lastly, when the thing is done, it will kind of like register into the engine. So this is what it is, right? So let's go down to the demo. Once everything is done, basically I did the deployment, I did the index, I did the data. The next one to do is what we call playground. Sorry, I tried to click on the images. how silly I am. I'll just go to the playground and the chat. So playground and chat is like the online tools for you to test your own data, right? Before you do a full-fledged so-called deployment. Remember, I deploying the GPT 3.5 Turbo 16, right? From here, I straight can ask him where to stay in New York. I'm not sure how many have been to New York before, but these are some of the places. So you say that, hey, it's recommended for you to stay in the Manhattan, the Midtown, and so forth. Get the questions. You ask ChatGPT, you ask the Google so-called Gemini, you ask the Bing Copilot, you get something like this. But now, because from a business perspective, I want to sell my hotel, right? So what I did is I can come here, go to my data, and because I pre-index a thing, I think it's this one. In the search type, I actually embed the hybrid, which means the keyword together with the vector. So even I put the word NY, you will understand I refer to New York, right? So I can say that, let me clear the chat. Where to stay in New York? It straight away tell me, hey, recommended you stay in this 3 hotel. It don't even give you an area name. Straight away, it will tell you this is the hotel. Like here in the Makati, I stay the other side, which is the Bukitani Hotel. It don't even tell you where to stay in Bukitani. They tell you stay in this hotel. That's what I want to do, right? It's for business. So this 3 hotel is actually a PDF that I uploaded, which is New York. So why it go that way? Because we want to set the groundness that I talked about just now. We want to set the context towards my business, my favorite. So this is what you can do, right? So you're saying that, hey, nearby you have a Times Square, you have a Broadway, and blah, 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 blah. So I can come back to my system here and say that where to stay in New York and why. So you get a similar answer. Same thing, which I haven't tried before. Where to stay in LV? Stand for Las Vegas. Right? So you have the, I don't even know this thing exists. Maybe it's a fake one. Volcano Hotel. It's actually another brochure of mine, which is the Las Vegas. Right? So from there, you're able to relate from what I talk about the whole thing. Okay? So of course, this is giving you, if you try to do selling, or what if I tons of company content like this actually a JSON file that I uploaded is a sample JSON file. It's related to company content, can be sales, can be anything, right? I can actually ask him. So if I choose my data here, I choose another one. I remove my data source. If you see this thing called the Loving Bear, blah, 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 it's because Microsoft generate a default index keyword for you. I'm so lazy to change it. I just use the default one. I asked it, who's the CEO? So it will search the context based on the JSON I have, which is you guys have a lot of data, can output into the JSON you want. So you say the CEO is Sarah Davis. If you ask who's the CEO in ChatGPT or Bing Copilot, you get all sorts of names. There's so many CEO in the world, right? There's no context of it. So what happened here is this is actually a content I have in my data, right? So you can put your own content in a more systematic way. In this case, it would be the JSON. And you ask for you. I haven't tried before XML, and please don't try. Right? And the next thing. It will able to do very basic calculations, not very complex. At least you know that he will take two dates, like now, today's date, and versus the thing you try to merge for you, right? But if you see from here, because I'm using a ChatGPT 16, which is a lower version or less advanced language model, it won't tell you exactly how many years old. But you still tell something more okay, I can give you a verbal. But my model not fast enough to calculate the age for you. If I use a ChatGPT 4.0, maybe it will calculate from me. So because the model I use is the earliest version and the cheapest version I have. So you have a limitation here, right? The next one I'll show you here is, as you can see from here, I got a couple employees. As I mentioned before, it's not good in calculation. While you do a SQL Server, you can do a count, straight away tell you there's 10 employees, right? Here it doesn't because it's a language. If I try to do another way, which is how many employees are from Seattle? Or in this case, you can say how many people from the Makati, or I know Philippines is big and full of the islands. You can ask the questions if you have the data from HR system, right? There you go. I asked how many employees, they tell me two, and who are they? They will tell me the answers. If you start realize this particular flow is exactly when you build your web applications, you click, you see the count, you click the details, it tells you the two names. But what I'm trying to show you here is the system now convert into a prompt engineering systems. The user experience are slightly different. Right? I would say everything will work, but a lot of things it will work. Imagine you told your HR, you show them this demo, they're like, I can very sure they're like, wow. Right? Because what happened here is it become more natural in terms of how to use the systems. Right? And of course, sometimes, I don't know, back in Malaysia, like Kuala Lumpur, we all use the word KL, short forms. Right? Like even you go to Singapore, they use the short forms a lot. It's just back in country cultures. Imagine that they don't have to type the whole thing. They can use prompt engineering with their own company data. That is very amazing. But you see the demo, right? It's quite different or refreshing from that perspective. Cool. So I show you three things. Just want to recap. I deploy LLM, the model, the data. I have PDF, I have the JSON, and then I have the index, right? Which is quite straightforward. I do the index on top of it. So another one I try to share with you is if you realize what I did just now is mostly drag, click, and everything, right? Behind the scene, there's something called the prompt flow. Prompt flow is very important for RNG applications. It is something like a workflow. What happened here is, if you remember, I ingest a question, I look up. The only difference here is the one with the ground and no ground. This is the grounders, they ask anything you have. This is the ground, you point to my own data source, right? And you get actually something similar, but this is the older versions. I'll show the one that I have just now, the demo I did. And first, you're going to see it will modify the query. The reason why you modify the query is because the question I asked, who's the CEO, and you will confine and how many staff from Seattle. You will set up the context accordingly, and then you will look up for data, and then it will generate the answer for you. If you see the logo there is the Python. Have you anyone of you know how to use the Python? Good, because I'm not very good in that. Teach me. Right? I do a lot of things on the C# before and the VB and some of these things, but not so good in Python. But I slowly is picking up. The reason is because every single box of this is actually available in the system. So if you see from here, there's a prompt flow. If I click on it, a prompt flow is generated, and you can edit every single step of it or customizing every single step of it. It's loading. Hello, hello. Yeah, there you go. Finally came out, came out, came out. As you can see from here, there's a multiple steps on the right here, as you can see, right? Then if you say want to rewrite the intent, extract the search, and all these things, this is the one that you will link to the data source, right? As you can see from here, you will link to this particular service that I just created. And I can change it if I want to. And here is the Python code, which I try to get hold and try to learn it up. Again, for those of you who are familiar, this is the one that the template is ready. So what Microsoft already did for you is they can actually help you do the template, and you can customize a template on top of it once you're more familiar, right? So yeah, there you go. Everything you can play around, right? So there's one thing I want to share with you here is there's a lot of things inside the screen just now I shared with you. Let's go to my chat playground. One thing here is you can straight away export or deploy the projects into the web apps. That means that the one I did, you will have a template. They give you a very basic UI, just a very basic one, not as nice as you see in the Bing or whatever. You can straight away deploy into the Microsoft Azure and show to your boss. You can try it tomorrow or straight away. So you don't have to like rewrite the whole thing. But one thing I never show you is if those of you who is would like to get hold of the coding, you can actually go to let me see where. Go to the view code, and you can select which language you want. All right. I'm not sure the landscape about the Philippines. Are you guys more on Java or you guys are more on the C#? Let's say I choose the C#. There is a code being generated. You can start from here as engineers. At least a template given to you. All this one is actually the endpoint, the parameters, the IPs, which you can get it from the template I showed you just now. Right, so from here, you have something to start rather than you don't know where to start or don't know how to start. My goal today is to show to few of you and let you guys understand the concept. And I hope you all able to pick it up and do some POC, proof of concept, with the company data. It can be any data. In this case, the one you see is a Northwind sample that I downloaded from the internet. And if you've seen before the PDF you get everywhere. Any PDF you can get. Anything, right? Just the language part, if the PDF is in your local language, maybe it will work that well. Or you need to find an LLM that is more suitable to your local language. Like back in Malaysia, right? From business perspective, we use English. But we also have our own national language, which is a bit similar from what you all speak, right? The Malay. Some of the words are very similar, right? But they do have a local LLM for Malay. Then if you ingest the PDF inside with the Malay, then you can take advantage of that. So there you go. So I show you the prompt flow demo as well, a couple of the C# things and how to deploy. So I try to conclude my presentation today, which is I believe that Azure AI Services is a very comprehensive solution if you don't want to start from scratch. All these things to deploy, the other questions you have, do you actually have servers to run your own whole AI solutions? Unless you can get hold of the H100 from NVIDIA, which I haven't seen one physically by myself. Without that, you can't ingest or train your own model based on this. Can't. You need to have a cloud infrastructure, the hyperscaler from Microsoft, to help you to do this, right? At least from my perspective, I can't do it in my laptop or anything, right? User-friendly and accessible. If you realize, I show you from a developer perspective, but a lot of things preset for you that you can give a try. And then from there, you can do a further things. And lastly, the advanced text summarization are pretty good in this case. As you can see from the demo that I showed you, right? You ask the questions, the semantic search or the vector search kicks in, New York and NY, LV and Las Vegas, they're able to know. If you do your own SQL Server, what you do, you put all the keywords there, right? So this is where the powerful of the AI search and the thing that given by the Microsoft able to assist you. By that, thank you very much. And any questions? Any questions? Well, I'll be around anything. I'll be around here until the end of the events, which is 1 o'clock. Any questions or you see more demos, come and look for me. Okay? Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.
Startup Founders Hub will be focused on how to optimize and get the most out of the Founders Hub that Microsoft offers out to small businesses and startups, if you will. So a little bit about me. Well, actually, first, our sponsors. We want to acknowledge Microsoft for being our organization sponsor and for letting us use the room. The beautiful offices here in Makati, and I encourage folks online to look at some of the photos that we post. And also quickly about AMP, we at Real Activity are proud supporters of the work that Patrick is doing globally with AMP. The primary mission is it's really outreach to the community, and so that ranges, right? In some sessions it could be a mix of hobbyists and enthusiasts with professionals. Some sessions it's students and professionals. Other events it's all professionals, and so we just love to support AMP. Here's a list of the upcoming events they have. And also, I'm really happy to announce that we'll be organizing our own AMP event in Boston, focused on healthcare in 2025. So this is exciting as well. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I like to share the slide in the beginning and tell just a little bit about me. So, well, first, I guess from a technology perspective, it's worth noting I've been working with business solutions and Microsoft technologies. I'm going to date myself now for about 30 years. And my focus has primarily been in the healthcare space and primarily with Microsoft technology. And so through my career, I had played a couple of different roles, and I think that's all we need for right. Well, I should say this because this is a startup session. I've actually have either worked for myself as a solo entrepreneur or as part of small startups and efforts pretty much my entire life. So I've never worked for a large corporation. It's always been myself or a small team helping people launch stuff, if you will. So I do have this real passion for business, if you will, probably second to technology. Well, let me rephrase that. I would say the number one thing after technology and travel are probably tied. So now I can get back to the slide. And so I've been really fortunate because as part of the work that we do, I've been able to travel to roughly about 115 countries and do presentations, etc. And my favorite picture that I like to point out right now is this one. This was exactly a year ago today before this tour here, and this is when we went to the Emirates Stadium. And so I'm actually inside this red tent, and it's freezing. Like outside, it's below freezing. But the best part of this story was that was our last day on the mountain. So the very next day, we climbed out the bottom, went to the airport, flew to Malaysia, and then did an executive track the next morning. So that was a little bit of craziness, but fun nonetheless, and with some great friends of mine in the Microsoft community. Quickly, we are very big on community and philanthropy. As a matter of fact, my primary title at Real Activity is Chief Philanthropy Officer. And so essentially for me, what that means is just making sure that we're always good people doing good things. That whatever we're working on, we're making a positive impact in the industry and in the world. And so it's worth just calling out. So we do that by a lot of stuff we do is in healthcare. So these are the global goals that are set by the UN and other groups around the world to work on these goals. But collectively, the world has come to an agreement that these are the goals we're working on right now. And so I like to think that we fit very well in number 3, which is essentially good health and well-being for the planet. And so, of course, our focus being healthcare, and then also we are the founders and organize the Boston Healthcare Cloud and AI community. And then also, again, we love AMP and we support a lot of the work that they're doing around the world. And this matches with number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. And so from a company perspective, those are our focuses in what we do. Okay, so now I'm going to start the session by going right into a demo instead of a bunch of slides. Okay, so to get started, one of the first things that you should know is that Microsoft has they actually have a bunch of programs and efforts now that all fall under the category of Microsoft startups. The one that we'll be discussing the most today is what they call Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub. And so one way to think about the Founders Hub initiative is it's actually, there's a couple of, let me just say, initiatives that really are near and dear to my heart that these folks do. And so, of course, the first is that, we know with this modern AI technology, there's a lot of effort right now to just figure out what's the best way to build new solutions, how to innovate and really take things to the next level. And so one of the best ways to do that is to invest in small startups, right? And what we're seeing is that this is actually where a lot of the innovation is coming from. I think actually the best example is OpenAI. When Microsoft decided to invest in OpenAI, they were a relatively small company, right? They had grew from 10 to 50, and I think when Microsoft invested in them, I might be wrong on this, you can check it, they either have 50 or 200, but it certainly wasn't a lot of employees. Microsoft, to put it in perspective, has over 250,000 employees around the world, if I remember correctly. So we see a lot of innovation coming from these startups. And so, of course, Microsoft, and to the credit of the industry, it's really the industry that's getting behind startups. So all of the hyperscalers like Microsoft have a similar startup program, if you will. One of the things that really got me excited about startups, to the point where I wanted to actually start speaking about it in presentations like this, is I also believe that this is a really great way to support small businesses. And so the reality is that small businesses need as much support as they can get today. And I think by Microsoft creating this Founders Hub, and I'll show you the benefits in just a moment, it really is supporting the small businesses. As a matter of fact, I'm 100% convinced for sure that we, in our effort in startups in our company, we would not be as far along as we were had it not been from the help of Microsoft. And so I'll explain what I mean by that by going through we'll start by going through some of the benefits and how you get here. So, the projector went off? Did it just barely go off? Something happened. Okay. Fix that somehow. Sorry, bear with me 1 minute. We just lost the projector in the room. No, we still lost the projector. Oh. Yeah, we might have to. Can you do us a favor so you can see Patrick in the other room? And I guess while we're waiting for Patrick, so for the folks that are watching online, I think the screen share is still working online, but it's not working in the room. So, but with that I can move on with the presentation. When the slides come up, you'll see what I've been talking about. The first thing that you should know is to get involved with the Microsoft Founders Hub, you really just need 3 things. You need a LinkedIn account that you can use to log into the platform, and then you need an idea, and then you need to register a business. And there's a lot of flexibility in how you register the business. So it's not that you have to spend a lot of money. Oh, they're having a similar process. Oh, so they're having problems, yeah. Okay, so we'll just push through. I can speak, and I think the people online can still see the screen, so that's nice. And as a matter of fact, let me just, since the people online can see the screen, I'm going to go to a different screen because we don't need to focus on our portal. So, yeah, so to get started, the only thing you need is an idea, and then you need a LinkedIn account, and then you need to verify a business. And I would submit to you that, and that piece is fairly easy. And so what I mean by that is what you'll find when you log into the platform is there are 4 different levels. And so when to get started, essentially what you do is you log in with your LinkedIn account, and there'll be a very simple form that you have to fill out where you have to express what is your idea, what is it that you want to build to change the world, or to help your friends or whatever. And again, please don't be tricked into thinking that this has to be some huge thing, right? I think we all want big ideas and this and that, but some of us also have something that we're passionate about that may impact smaller groups, et cetera, right? Or even students. Candidly, I think one of the best audiences for startups are those students that are in university studying computer science. They've come up with some sort of idea, maybe get excited by something their professor told them, and now they want to figure out how to take the next step and turn that into a business. And so I just want to be clear, you don't have to come up with an idea to reinvent, the car or something like this. It can be very straightforward and simple. And so what happens is you go through the process of expressing your idea. There's our screen came back up. And what happens is, so now I'll go back to the home page. And I don't mind showing this. This is our actual portal, and I don't mind sharing it. It's not, extremely confidential. We're not going into anything crazy. But what you'll see when you first log in, so we've been with Microsoft Startups for just over a year now. We graduated to level 4. We're again super excited about the work that we're doing with them. And so our dashboard will look a little bit different. But what will happen is, let's say you complete those first steps and you're accepted on level 1. And by the way, we should talk about the different phases. So level 1 is really about the idea. And it's sometimes referred to as the idea stage, or idea gate, if you will. And basically that's where the goal of the first level is to just really firm up your idea. But be able to describe it clearly, etc., and create an idea. The second step is when you actually start to build your prototype or your MVP. So this is when you actually start working on something to sort of prototype your application, if you will. And then the third stage that you move on to becomes more about finding product market fit, making sure that the idea that you had, that now you have started to turn into a product, and you have a demo that you can show people. Then the next phase in level 3 is that you need to show that you have a product market fit, and that's the big focus there. And then finally, level 4 is about growth. So how do you grow and scale out into customers? So oftentimes, and by the way, when you sign up for the program, if you already have an idea and you already have a product or a demo, then what might happen is they might put you right to level 3. So for our company, we had an existing product. We wanted to make it even better and work with startups. So we had the idea part and we had the product piece. And so Microsoft, when we signed up, they placed us on level 3. And so then we had a year to prove ourselves and to go from level 3 to level 4. And so this is why, for us, the product market fit piece of it was so important. Our demo video is an example of one of the things we have to put together. But now that I've described all the phases in detail, let's go back just to the beginning, level 1. So what will happen is you sign up using your LinkedIn account. Again, you're going to go through this process of describing your idea, what it is that you're hoping to build, etc. And then usually fairly quickly, it's meant to be a self-service platform, so it doesn't take a long time before you'll get a response. It's usually within a couple of days. Not always, but oftentimes it's within a couple of days. And what will happen is you'll get an email telling you that you've been invited to the Founders Hub, and then when you come back and you log in with your LinkedIn, you're going to see a screen like this. And so now we should talk about some of the benefits that the Startup Founders Hub provides. And so here you go. You can see it's more than just the Azure credits, right? So if my memory serves me correct, I believe when you are accepted into level 1, you will receive $2,500 worth of credits that you can use in Azure to build your prototype to take it to the next level. But there's far more benefit from Founders Hub than just the Azure credits. As a matter of fact, one of the things we've benefited from the most is this guidance section, which I'll come back to and go through in just a moment. But the point to note now is that it really is more than Azure credit. And as a matter of fact, for myself, I spent most of my life, as an engineer and working with the technology. So I actually feel very comfortable in that space. But when it came time to growing a business, and then you folks can attest to, I had to put a lot of effort into learning about business development, sales, right? Building a team. It's more those soft skills that I needed help with. Now, many people that join Founders Hub, they may be in the opposite position, right? Maybe they're in a specialty in their industry, but they have an idea for a product that they want to build. And what they really need is they need the technical help, okay? And so that's available as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when it comes to the guidance network. But if we just look at the, hard benefits, if you will, like that, the actual stuff that is given to you to help grow you through these different levels, a couple that I can point out that have just been very useful for us, and you can tell the ones because they're redeemed, right? We haven't redeemed all of them at this time, but for example, sales, having access to licenses for Dynamics sales, and not only Dynamics sales, but the enterprise edition of that has been huge for us. Having all the licenses for Microsoft 365 collaboration tools, etc., has been a tremendous help to us. Of course, things like the LinkedIn subscriptions for premium business, and I believe there's even one here, the Sales Navigator 4 down here. Sales Navigator, we use it all the time in our group. And so this just gives you a sense of some of the support that they offer. And also notice it's not just software, right? So you can see there's some consulting for securing non-dilutive funding, right? I don't even know what that is, but we'll find out in a moment. And then you have Forecaster, right? Pick your growth targets, impress investors, etc. So this is a company that provides software to help you manage your investors, etc., and your financial models. And so again, it's not only Microsoft licenses, and it's not only licenses that are related to technology, it's also licenses and skills that are required from the business side of growing a business. And so I think one of the interesting things to note is that a lot of this is also up on the Microsoft Learn site. So notice if we go here, let's go to build an early stage startup. So this is the learn.microsoft.com site. And just like all of the documentation and training at Microsoft, it's hosted up on what they call Microsoft Learn now. And so what you're doing here is that they've actually put together a great collection of assets to train folks on the basics of even how do you go about starting an early stage startup. Now, the interesting thing to know about what I'm showing you now is you don't have to go through the process and join the Founders Hub to access it. So this is actually available to the public, regardless of whether you're in Founders Hub or not. And as a matter of fact, I would submit that if you're considering working with the Founders Hub, that maybe it would make sense to actually go to the Learn site first and learn a little bit more about what will it take to build an early stage startup. What are some of the fundamentals that we need to know? How do we validate our startup ideas with our customers? Most important and dear to my heart is getting to revenue. right? Like, how do we take our mousetrap or whatever it is that we make and then turn it into something where we're actually making some revenue? As a matter of fact, I have a new favorite saying, which is a business without sales is a hobby. And you need to get sales, and then you have a business, right? And so, again, this I would stress is, you know, important for many reasons, right? It's sort of like the oxygen to your company, if you will. But you see there's other skills here as well: naming, branding, building the team, and then fundraising and how to pitch the company. So, by the way, the other thing that's really interesting to note about this is because this is hosted on the Microsoft Learn site, you can register with the Microsoft Learn site, and this is how Microsoft keeps track of their credentialing and certifications now. So especially if you're early in your career right now and you're working with technology, you should right now, you should go create an account on Microsoft Learn. And I'll tell you why. When I first started in the industry, it was in the early, you know, professionally in the industry, like doing real work, it was in the early 90s. And it was 1996 when I received my first Microsoft certification. And what was interesting is Microsoft had another platform prior to this one where they would track everybody's certifications. And I didn't realize it at the time when I did that, but it was really powerful because then what happened is 5 years went by, 10 years went by, and 15 years went by, and I could point to documented proof that I had been working on this stuff for however many years, right? And so that's why I'm saying if you're young and you're just getting into your career, or like you folks here, you know, your students, I would actually do this right away now, even if you don't go through and do some of the certifications. If for any other reason, it'll put that stamp on your profile that, hey, this is when I started. And I think you'll appreciate that down the road. Like, it might not sound like a big deal now, but you know, as time goes by, and I think more and more too, I think it's important, especially with AI, to be able to sort of prove, right, that we are who we say we are, and we've done the things that we say we've done. And I would just submit that Microsoft Learn provides that. And I would also take it a step further, sign up, but then do a couple certs, even if they're the easy one, right? You could just do an introduction to startup, etc., right? And what that will do, again, it will put your first certification badge at that date. And so then you'll always have that there. My transcript, so the prior platform before Learn, it used this concept of transcripts, just like universities use, etc. And that platform held my transcript for the 25 years until they finally switched to Microsoft Learn. And then they moved it over, so now I can still see in the platform, and I can prove to people that I was actually certified as a software engineer, you know, officially by Microsoft in 1996. So I think that's just, you know, again, some tips that I will share with you. And so, of course, in the context of what we're talking about today in Microsoft Startup, you can see that there's a wealth of information. One of the other things I wanted to point out, one of my favorite modules, maybe if we were just talking about this and this is where we are, is this path to revenue. And I also think, by the way, for the students in the room, that this can really complement what you're learning, you know, in class from your instructors, if you will. And even, you know, for myself, like I remember when I first found this path to revenue model, it was, you know, within the last year, I was really excited. And again, because I spent my life as an engineer, you know, of course I knew what revenue was, and like, you know, subscriptions, and we sell licenses to software, etc. But, you know, I never really had internalized what does that mean from a startup perspective, right? Like my favorite quote that I told you, a business is just without sales is a hobby. Like I learned that very recently, like in the last year or so, you know, prior to actually having to do this stuff and with the support from Microsoft, I didn't know much, you know, about this stuff at all. And so what's really fascinating is, again, you go through here, and even the revenue model. I think one of the very first things a startup company needs to do is they need to come up with, okay, what is going to be your revenue model? How are you going to make money with your new thing that you created? And so you can see they're giving some examples here, okay? Usage. And then they give some pros and cons and considerations, right? So the usage model might require a large upfront investment, etc. But basically, the customers are going to pay you based on the frequency that they're going to use your product. One of the most common revenue models here, number 2, is subscriptions. Sure, we've all got subscriptions, right? We understand subscriptions. Well, from a business perspective, subscriptions are a very powerful revenue model. So my session here today is not necessarily to teach the core competencies like they have up here on Microsoft Learn. It's really more to introduce you to Founders Hub, etc. And so I'm not going to continue to go through some of these concepts. You can do this online. And by the way, if you do it, remember, create your profile first so that you can get credit right away, because they'll start tracking everything you do up here. But all you have to do is go through the modules. You just click through. They ask you a quick test at the end, you finish, and then you go on to the next module. And every time you do that, it gets saved in your permanent record at Microsoft. And then at milestone points, they, in the old days, they would give us certifications, and they would be on our transcript. Now, oftentimes these are badges, credentials that map to certifications, and again, that will be persisted there forever, or until they move to a new platform, I should say. Okay, and then I do like to focus a little bit on this module. Again, this is still up on the Microsoft Learn site, and you can see we're under Startup Fundamentals, and this module is what makes startups fail. And the reason why I like to call this out is because I do think it's so critical that people understand this as the young entrepreneurs in the room, etc. And that is that once you get through your idea phase and you build your demo, your prototype, and then typically what happens is where people fail the most is by not making sure they have the right product market fit. And so not having the right product market fit is a fancy way of saying, do people want to buy my product? Like, is there really a need for people to buy this product? And I don't want to scare you, because you don't have to deal with this until level 3. So if you're getting started and you're on your entrepreneur path, I want you to remember this now. That's why I'm sharing it with you. It's not something you will necessarily deal with in the first phase or the second phase, but absolutely by the time you're on level 3, you will not be able to get to level 4 in Microsoft Startups until you can prove that you have a product market fit. So for us, this is a great teachable moment to move on to sort of the next topic, if you will, and one of the most valuable things that we found in working with startups, and that is the guidance piece. And actually, before I go there, let me just share a couple more slides, because I think it will help to understand why the guidance was important to us. But essentially, our story is we had built a platform over the past number of years with a large healthcare system in the US. The platform is running in 15 hospitals right now. It's one large hospital system called Dartmouth, but they have 15 hospitals. And so we built this in the past couple of years. And long story short, we refer this as our activity reporting platform, or our real activity provider experience platform. And what happened was, at one point, I decided I wanted to take the next step and turn this into a business. And so we signed up for Microsoft Startups, and we went right to level 3, because we already had this in a client. People were using it, so we were well beyond the idea phase. We didn't need a prototype. People were already using it and saving money. So we went right to level 3. But then what happened was, when we got to level 3, then again, through Microsoft Learn, and it became apparent to me that our product market fit was going to be imperative. And as we were building our platform over the past years, I always felt good about our product market fit. But then as some years went by, I did see where some other partners and other folks were getting close to what we were doing. Like we still were doing something really different at our core, but I wasn't 100% convinced that these really smart people at Microsoft startups and the people that would be looking at our product, that they would see our product market fit. And so long story short, what happened was because we were in Microsoft startups, we actually got a very early notice about the OpenAI and modern AI stuff that we're talking about today here at the show. And so what occurred to me is that we could take the stuff that Microsoft and OpenAI had just given us, and this included some open source software called Semantic Kernel. It included things like Azure AI Studio. And then we could put that stuff right on top of what we had already built over the past couple of years. And that was exciting because that's what gave us our product market fit, is when we put this newer technology on top of what we were already doing well and had, I believe, a good product market fit, but then it made it 10 times better and gave us great product market fit. And I think there's actually another lesson to be learned here as well. And that is that oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we're in this mindset of going from a 0 to a 1 for innovation. And so folks that are not familiar with this term 0 to 1, essentially a 0 to 1 is true innovation. It's when you make something for the first time. So for example, and this is actually from a book called 0 to 1. It's actually the name of the book. If you're interested in this, you can look for the book. And very inspiring book, actually. And so the idea is to go to 0 to 1 is innovation. So the example used in the book is if when you first invent the pencil, you go from a 0 to a 1. Because the pencil never existed before. And you were the very first one, you said, hey, I got a pencil, and you went to the 0 to 1. And that's actually the hardest kind of innovation, right? And it makes sense. Said another way, it's really hard to invent something new, right? To innovate. And a technical way of saying that is that it's difficult to do that 0 to 1. And I do believe that's important. If your main goal is innovation and building something completely new, then you want to focus on that 0 to 1. But I also think as entrepreneurs, we don't want to lose track of the power of taking an existing technology and then using something like what we did with the Microsoft AI stuff, and then making it exponentially better. So while it's not innovation going from a 0 to 1, and here's the example with the pencil. So when you invent the pencil, you go from the 0 to 1. Right now I have a brand new pencil. And then let's say Jude comes up with an idea. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make it so that you can erase that pencil. And I'm going to put an eraser on the top of that pencil. That's patentable, right? You can file for a patent for that. You can say, I'm improving the pencil. I'm going to add this eraser to the pencil. And so, while that's amazing, and you still might do really, really well and make a ton of money, it's not a true 0 to 1, right? Because you're actually improving somebody else's product or idea or innovation, or your own for that matter. And so my message to you is, while of course, as we're working in technology and computer science, the 0 to 1 is fundamental, and we should focus on that, right? And at the end of the day, we do need innovation to keep pushing all of us humans forward, if you will. But again, don't underestimate also the path of taking something that already exists and making it a lot better. And that's essentially what we did with the Microsoft tools and adding it on top of our product. And so that's basically how our Copilot was born. So that's how the Real Activity Provider Experience Copilot was born. And now getting back to the point I was trying to make when we were looking at this. Nope. At this is the guidance network. So what's fascinating is, so this, I think of it as an experts network. Microsoft has renamed it here as the guidance network. And this is available to you as part of the Founders Hub. And so essentially this is a collection of resources that you can use to get help growing your business, if you will. And so to remind you, we ended up on level 3, and the most important part for us was to prove our product market fit. And so I realized this, and so I thought to myself, well, why don't I make use of this expert network? And so I tested it out. I sent out an email to 5 people, and what was really fascinating is I was able to if you explore the expert network, there's actually a bunch of filters here. And what you'll notice is that it's not all technology skills, right? You can see there's partnerships, pitching, funding and investment, etc. And so what I did is I selected one of these business skills. I forgot which one it was now, maybe sales or something like that. And then notice you can pick industry as well. So we're in the healthcare industry, so I selected industry. And it narrowed it down to a sort of short list of experts, both at Microsoft and some that were external to Microsoft, that knew about this stuff, if you will. And so what was interesting is we sent out those emails, 5 of them, if I remember correctly. Within 2 days, we had gotten a response back. And what was amazing is that it was a high, a person at a great position at Microsoft Healthcare and HLS. And prior to working with Microsoft, the healthcare and HLS group, this person had actually spent over 10 years in the healthcare industry at a large hospital. And so what was amazing to me is, one, he got back to us so quickly and set up an appointment, didn't make us wait, but then within the week we were actually talking about our idea. But what was amazing is that he knew exactly what we were doing because he had that real world experience in the hospital. And he knew about this problem that we were solving. So this goes a little bit to product market fit. So then what happened is he agreed. He said, wow, this is great. And then what happened is we got an email a few days later that said, hey, we'd like you to meet with this doctor and show him what you're building. And so I was surprised, but Microsoft actually has doctors on staff right now. He had a Microsoft email, and I forget exactly what his specialty was, but it was a doctor, Microsoft doctor, I call it. And essentially, so what we had to do is we had to show the doctor what we were doing. And he agreed with the first person. He said, wow, these guys are actually doing something cool. I could see using this. I could see where this might be really helpful for hospitals as well. And so then a week went by, another week, and I started to get paranoid. I was like, well, maybe they were just being nice to me or something, I'm saying this. And we got an email, and basically it was like, hey, now we want you to show your product to this chief medical officer at this hospital system. And this was a big hospital system too. And the chief medical officer that I'm talking about is actually very well respected in the industry. And so the idea is if he likes what he sees and integrates it and does it, then other hospitals would follow his lead, if you will. And so, so it was great. So, we set up a meeting, we did a demo for the chief medical officer, and he agreed. He was the third one, and that was our final level that gave Microsoft, I think, the confidence in what we were doing. And he agreed. He said, no, I can see where this will be a huge benefit to our hospital system, et cetera, et cetera. And it's still an active lead today. And unfortunately, what happened is this system was actually acquired by an even larger hospital system that has like over 150 hospitals in the US now. And they're in the process of consolidating all of their systems. And so they said, while they love what we're doing and they believe in it, that it's just not the best time, right? So we would have to revisit the timing for that, which is very normal. We work in the enterprise space, so we're not selling pencils, actually. We're selling, platforms that help the entire hospital and hospital system. And oftentimes these decisions to deployment literally take years. It could be a 1, 2, sometimes 3 year cycle. So that's our story about product market fit. But really the moral of the story that I hope you're seeing is the power of this guidance network that Microsoft affords us once we become a member of the Founders Hub. And I would submit, now remember, for me, I've been working in technology for some decades now, and I felt comfortable on the tech side. But let's also remember there will be many folks that maybe they have industry-specific experience, right? Maybe they are the best accountant in all of the Philippines, right? And they just came up with this amazing new idea on how they can use AI to help accountants in the Philippines. But they don't have the technology skills, right? They don't know how they're going to build some machine learning or AI, right? Or the product experience over here. If I drop that down, you would see the various different Microsoft products, etc. And so the folks that are more in the category of, I would say you're a subject matter expert. You have a really great idea that you want to turn into a business. You can also get the technology help that you need here and there. So usually when I get to this part of the presentation, folks ask about the price, like how much do you have to pay to get this guidance? How much do you have to pay to get into Microsoft startups? And so all of this is Microsoft supporting startups and small businesses. So there's not a price tag associated with this. It's absolutely at zero cost to go up and register for the Founders Hub and to get yourself in the portal and start growing your idea. When you reach out for guidance, the consultative sessions that you receive are free of charge. So you're not expected to, there's no cost for this. So this is, in my opinion, a wonderful service and gift that Microsoft is providing to small businesses and startups. Okay, so we have a few minutes left, and so I think what I'd like to do is let's acknowledge that we're Microsoft Startups is sort of an umbrella thing, and we have the Founders Hub underneath it, and that's what we've been talking about. And you should know that from Microsoft's perspective, and it should be your perspective as well, the goal is to graduate level 4, but also what happens at that same time period is they enter you hopefully into a new program, another program called ISV Success. And so what ISV Success is about is taking the product that you now have and training you on how to get it into the Microsoft Store. Even more importantly, how to get it into the Microsoft Store as a transactable service, meaning customers can go to the Microsoft site, they can buy your product, give Microsoft a credit card, Microsoft processes it, and then there's a nominal percentage that they keep and they follow the profit, to your company. And so the idea again is you go from levels 1 through 4 in startups, and then ideally what will happen is now you've got a product, and then you go on to ISV Success and you get it into the Microsoft Store. And then the next step after that, and we should be able to close the presentation with this. The next step after that is there's a program called Pegasus. And so this is an invitation-only program, but essentially after you prove that you have product market fit, and you prove that you either have an existing sale, existing customers, or funding from a venture capital fund. You have to do one of those two things before they will consider you for Pegasus. The reason being is the powerful thing about Pegasus is that they will start to introduce you to their enterprise account. And so the idea is they want to make sure that if they introduce you to an account, that you don't go out of business in 6 months. So they do a quick check, like, okay, does this person now have the funding required, right? Either through a sale of some sort. And so we had to do this. We had to prove that we had a customer through, case studying and various different means, and that we had revenue coming in, and that allowed us to get to where we are. So the next step will be Pegasus to get you into enterprise accounts. And then finally, if you do decide that the funding route is something for you, Microsoft does have the Microsoft Venture Fund. It's referred to as M12. And so these folks, as well as the Pegasus program, they're watching all those companies on level 4. And so they're watching our company. And this is why, my team, we probably never do all the same thing, is we've got to make sure we're continuing our work with startups, right? We want to make sure that we're fully engaged, even though we're busy with everything else. For me, it's really important because we want them to see the good work we're doing. We want them to see what we're building, and hopefully we get the visibility that we should we decide to go for funding. We're focused more on revenue at this point. But should we decide to go to funding, this would be one possible route. Now, of course, there are lots of firms that can do this, right? I'm talking about Microsoft startups here, and I'm trying to just have this conversation in the context of what Microsoft offers to startup communities. And so I think what we'll do is we'll end there. And so I'll just close in saying, I know there's at least 2 students in here, and I hope you found it, a little bit helpful. And please go up. My closing message would be go up to the Microsoft Learn site as soon as you can and establish your profile there. Just pass the certification. If you're interested in AI and user experience, maybe you pass a quick exam on that. You're interested in, architecture, well, I don't know if they have an architecture certification, but maybe, how to use tech in industry or, whatever it might be. But put your mark, put a stake in the ground. That's what I say. Put a stake in the ground now, even if you're not 100% ready, but this is a passion that you have. And so with that, I guess I will just say I wish you the best of luck with your startup ideas. Thank you. Okay, let me stop this.
For me, it's okay. You can start when you're ready.
So showing two screens?
You are sharing. Yeah. The problem is not.
Oh, it's extending.
Yeah, it's PowerPoint. In fact, you have an option in PowerPoint. Yeah, you should activate. Slideshow. You should remove this presenter view because it's sending duplicate.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, am I good to go?
No, we have to share again the screen in screen.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Present.
Present again. Just share screen. Share there. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah,
looks good.
good.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time today, and sorry for the delay in the session. Today I'm going to talk about, in previous sessions, you might have heard about Azure AI to do some Copilot stuff where you do create your own chat, like, ChatGPT and stuff, right? Now, in this session, I'm